We're always going to have narcissists in our society. Narcissists are a part of the Western culture. In a culture of fierce competition and scarcity, narcissism is always going to be on the rise. So it's important for us, if we want to stay safe, to empathically understand narcissists as wounded people who have the inability to cope with those wounds, who have disassociated from their feeling and emotional intelligence, who will use different tactics to manipulate you and gain power in order for them to feel secure and them to have their needs met. Narcissism and narcissists can be a tough topic because it can jog so much trauma and memories of things we might be dealing with or have survived. But I feel like it's important to understand narcissists from a human being level, from an emotional development level, because they're everywhere in our society. As an empath, narcissists seem to be attracted to me the most. I've had experiences dating them, I have been born to them, and I've worked for them. I understand narcissists very, very deeply. I have tuned into the truth of the experiences that I've incurred with narcissists at many levels. There seems to be a large culture villainizing narcissists, monsterifying them, creating a large shadow for them to lurk in. But I feel like it's a dangerous thing to cast narcissists out of society in a way that makes them hide their truth and the things that they struggle with. If you don't allow them to truly develop themselves out in the open, to truly be honest about what their struggles are, then you create a role that they almost will step into very easily and naturally to embody the villain and be very great at it. If society doesn't understand these dysfunctional conditions, then what we end up doing is monsterifying people and locking them into a secret way of behaving that will only increase and magnify the malignant dysfunction they're operating with. And in the end, that creates a very unsafe environment for all of us. And let's face it, narcissists have children, and some children will want to identify with their parents. So it's not something that we're going to just overcome. It's something that we need to understand so that we don't become ultimate victims and we don't get locked in a stage of trauma and anger and blame. But having a dialogue like this comes at a big price. Not everyone wants to see what the narcissist is dealing with inside of their core wounding. Many people would rather stay angry at the narcissist for causing the hurt that they've caused, or see them as monsters. We can only have a safe culture when everyone feels safe to talk about what their difficulties are and have an open forum to be able to overcome those difficulties without shame. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what goes on inside of a narcissist and why they've become a narcissist. What is it about their experience that causes them to morph in this direction? When you see a narcissist, what you should understand is narcissists are wounded people. It's a wounding that happens in childhood, something that happens that's either very harsh or is lacking. Sometimes the wounding that they have is a nurture wound or an attachment bond that's been broken. If they had a parent who did not love them and attach to them in a healthy and safe way, then sometimes they can form a hunger wound. This hunger wound can be an insatiable appetite that they grow up with that ends up taking all of the attention and all of the resources and everything from every relationship that they are around. They don't know what it means to share in a relationship of give and take. They only know how to take because their early setup was in a situation where nobody was giving to them and they had to learn to take. So for them, this becomes normalized, taking what they want. There are people who will take it all because they don't know how to moderate themselves. They're much like an alcoholic. If you understand alcoholism and why that happens, that's someone who doesn't have coping skills. That's someone who doesn't know how to handle a pain, a trauma that was buried, or many that were buried somewhere in the past. And so they use alcohol to cope with looking at the thing they're afraid to look at. And narcissists are the same way. They have disassociated because they didn't know how to cope either. So they become very malignant. They can become possessive. They can become manipulative in what type of resources they're trying to gain from certain individuals. they will tend to control the story because they don't want everyone waking up to the fact that they're controlling everyone in these micro ways in order to keep a kingdom intact, to give them a sense of security and power. The reason that they want everyone around them under their control is because they are unable to cope with certain levels of insecurity. They're insecure. They have a difficult time feeling secure when other people are in the seat of power. So in order for them to feel comfortable and secure, they like to control everything and everyone around them. Now, some people experience narcissism in a way that's very sadistic. If you're experiencing somebody who enjoys experiencing your displeasure or your fear or hurting you, that's a secondary condition on top of narcissism. There are different types of ways that sadism can occur, but it has to do with neurobiology of the brain. If a child or a young teen was developing and something sexually exploitive happened to them, or maybe something very painful and disciplinarian, or maybe something happened to them that caused them great pain and shame while they were laying down their neurobiology, there can be a crossing of wires. It can also happen from brain injury. And so sadistic tendencies can occur on top of narcissism that can cause a narcissist to enjoy hurting you and torturing you physically or emotionally. So it's important to understand that not all narcissists have that. They don't all enjoy hurting you, but some do. And so when you see that, what you really need to learn to see is sadism. That person is sadistic. And that sadistic malignancy and how they have developed is unique. Narcissism is really about a lack of an ability to cope, a lack of an ability to feel, a lack of an ability to feel secure, a lack of an ability to feel attachment to others in the way that you want the best for them. They don't know what it means to feel for others because they're so busy feeling for themselves. And this is why they will literally starve everyone around them, because they take it all for themselves, because they become a vacuum. But in the end, what you need to understand is that this is a person who doesn't have a level of maturity to handle the fact that they are not well emotionally and psychologically and take ownership of that. So therefore, it's going to be up to you to understand, who is this person? How do they operate? How are they really behaving? What are they really doing? And are they helping other people rise? Are they really showing the investment in other people? And in the end, it gives you greater power to understand what you can do when you're dealing with a human being that has this disorder, and how to keep your power in you, how to keep from giving your power to the wrong person, and how to stay empowered in general in all of your situations. We're always going to have narcissists in our society. Narcissists are a part of the Western culture. In a culture of fierce competition and scarcity, narcissism is always going to be on the rise. So it's important for us, if we want to stay safe, to empathically understand narcissists as wounded people who have the inability to cope with those wounds, who have disassociated from their feeling and emotional intelligence, who will use different tactics to manipulate you and gain power in order for them to feel secure and then to have their needs met. So making sure that you don't fall for the charms of a narcissist, making sure that you understand where your power is, and making sure that you don't give away your sovereignty. As an empath who was a massage therapist to many, many narcissists during my lifetime, I can tell you that they very much crave to be nurtured and to be understood. And when you do that well, they will respect you and appreciate you. Many of them, not all of them. Some of them will use you and game you. And even the narcissist who will respect you will eventually grow an attachment bond to you that becomes somewhat malignant, because they are trying to attach to something that feels so right for them. For example, there were times when I was working with somebody for many years and it was completely platonic. This person never ever expressed any sort of sexual interest in me whatsoever. But after being nurtured and cared for and supported for so long, they would develop a sexual attraction to me. Because with narcissists, the only type of feeling that they allow themselves to feel is sexual generally. And it was sad because I really did feel a very strong compassion for the person that I was working with. However, I knew that once it would go to that level, that I had to disconnect. Because the people I was working with that were narcissistic were high-level people, very powerful, very successful people. They were in a culture that conditioned them to be able to sleep with whoever they wanted, even if they were married. And their wives were okay with that too, because that was the one outlet they were afforded to feel. And when this ask would come to me, I would say no, and it would trigger a rejection wound for them. And that's when the blank stare would come. After many years of loving and nurturing this person, they would look at me like the enemy, because now I've just triggered a rejection wound for them that makes them feel all of those things that they never wanted to feel again. And so understanding how to work with a narcissist is complicated, but it's entirely possible. I think that if we want to have a better world, we have to learn how to be empathic towards one another, understand one another, and have compassion for one another, regardless of if people have hurt us or not. Hi everybody, join me at Patreon, where I'm creating a safe space where you can begin really understanding yourself from an emotional level, understanding how to process the experiences of your life, and how to really live in your truth and in the seat of your power. I hope you'll come and join me for the twice-a-month calls I'm going to be having. And I'm going to be sending out exclusive weekly videos to my Patreon supporters. Become a part of our growing emotionally supportive community. I hope to see you there. Having empathy doesn't always mean sympathy. It really just means understanding what you're seeing. I think it's important for us as a culture to have empathy for narcissists. That's going to be a difficult thing for a lot of people to hear, because a lot of people have been hurt by narcissists, myself included. I have been extremely hurt, hunted, and set up by narcissists. But once you take ownership of what you've gone through, how you entered those relationships, the things that you wish you could have done that you didn't do, and heal from that and move beyond that, you can really understand things objectively. Narcissists can hurt us for sure. They have great capacity to go beyond the threshold of most average human beings and really take what they want and play games with you and use you and hurt you. But what can keep you from getting played and feeling like a victim is understanding what you're seeing, learning how to vet people, learning how to see what's showing up, and learning to understand why that's presenting itself. What is there underneath the surface? What is really speaking? And this will keep you from falling for the charms and the games that people can play, rather than staying in a constant victim and blaming role after something bad has happened to you. The way to recover is to understand who this person was, why they were operating this way, and what you could have done to keep yourself safe, and what you can do in the future so that you can stay in the seat of your power no matter what is being thrown at you. Oftentimes, when we leave a relationship where we've been manipulated by someone like this, we can feel really angry and hurt and upset that somebody has done so much harm to us and they've seemingly felt no remorse about it. And it can be really hard for us to wrap our minds around, because we have ethics that would never allow us to cross certain boundaries. But in order for you to keep yourself safe, it's important to understand not only them, but also you. What is it that was speaking in that relationship that was calling you towards it from within yourself? What can you take ownership to know how that person duped you into this lie? Now, it doesn't mean that you blame yourself. It means that you awaken to understand intelligently what was speaking inside of you, what was missing inside of you that called you towards this person. How were they able to deceive you? Why were you not able to self-advocate, to keep yourself safe, to cut the line, to say, no, I will not take this. I will not let you harm me. Blaming people is a waste of energy. What's important to do is understand so that you can keep yourself safe in the future and that you have a better understanding of what happened and how it happened. You can be in a relationship with somebody who is narcissistic, but what's important is to know that you always need to be advocating for yourself, because that person doesn't know how to do that. You always need to be in a position of your own personal empowerment, not in a dependency with someone like that, because they don't know how to be fair to you. And knowing this can help you greatly. You may choose not to be in a love relationship, but you might have had children with a person. You're going to be working for them in the workforce. They might be your neighbor, they might be all over the place. And therefore, being able to know how to work with narcissists, it becomes very important. Learning how to not let them and their mental and emotional disorder rule you and ruin you is key to your inner peace and your longevity. Don't expect the narcissist to be able to be just like you. And even though you will know that they have this disorder and you can learn to see it, you also have to learn to understand that they may not choose to take ownership of this disorder. They may use it against people who are none the wiser. There's always a role that you can play in helping keep people safe, but without becoming a victim of theirs, without having to live in a state of anger and blame. I hope this has been helpful and insightful to you. I'd like to know more about what your experience is working with narcissists or living with narcissists, and what you thought about my insight as well. Thank you all for being a part of this journey, and I'm so excited to hear about your stories too.